The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the quiet neighborhood streets. A cold wind blew through the trees, carrying the faint sound of rustling leaves. Amidst this peaceful evening, a dog stood alone on the sidewalk, his fur matted from days of wandering and his eyes filled with longing. His name was Max, a German shepherd with a striking coat of black and tan fur, but his beauty was overshadowed by the sadness in his eyes. Max had been wandering from house to house, hoping for a little kindness, but with each passing door, his heart grew heavier. Max had always been a loyal and loving companion to his previous family. They had adopted him when he was just a pup, full of energy and excitement. But things had changed. The family moved to a new city, and in the rush of packing and leaving, Max had been left behind. His once happy home was now just a memory, a distant echo that only he could hear. The first house he visited that day was the Johnsons' house, a warm, inviting place with a well-kept yard. Max had approached their front door with his tail wagging in hope. But when Mrs. Johnson opened the door, her face tightened with concern. "Oh, another stray," she murmured, stepping back quickly. "We can't keep you, sweetheart. We already have 2 dogs, and they don't get along with others." She gave him a quick pat on the head, but her voice was cold, and her eyes showed no empathy. With a sad sigh, she closed the door, leaving Max standing in the cold. Feeling defeated, Max moved on, his paws dragging along the pavement. He reached the next house, the Smiths, hoping for a different outcome. But as he approached, the family was out in their front yard, playing with their own dog. Max watched them for a moment, his heart aching as he saw the love they shared. But as soon as they noticed him, the dog's owner, Mr. Smith, walked over and shook his head. "Sorry, buddy, but we're not taking in any strays. You should head to the shelter." His voice was firm, dismissive, and there was no warmth in his words. Without another word, he turned away, leaving Max to stand in silence. Max's eyes filled with sadness as he watched them walk back into their home, their laughter echoing in the distance. The world around him seemed to close in, the street empty and silent. He continued his journey, his steps slow and weary. Each rejection chipped away at his hope, making him question if he would ever find a place to call home again. As the day wore on, Max visited more houses, each one a reminder of his loneliness. The Thompsons' house was next, and Max hesitated for a moment before approaching. The elderly couple who lived there were sitting on their porch, enjoying the cool breeze. When they saw Max, the woman smiled, but it quickly faded as she stood up and shook her head. "I'm sorry, dear, but we can't take you in. We have too much on our plate already," she said, her voice kind but firm. Max's tail drooped even lower, and with a defeated look, he turned away. The sun was now low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the empty street. Max was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. His journey had taken him all over the neighborhood, but every door he knocked on led to rejection. No one wanted him. He was just another stray dog, unwanted and unloved, cast aside by the very people he had once trusted to take care of him. As he walked away from the last house, Max couldn't help but feel the weight of the world pressing down on him. His heart ached with the desire to belong, to find a family who would care for him. But it seemed that everyone he met saw only the fact that he was a stray, a dog with no home, no future. His hope began to fade, replaced by a quiet resignation that perhaps he would always be alone. But little did Max know, this was not the end of his story. There was someone out there who would see beyond his past, someone who would read the message on his collar and understand that he was more than just a stray. His journey of rejection was about to take a dramatic turn, but for now, he continued to walk, lost in his thoughts, wondering if anyone would ever give him the love and acceptance he so desperately needed. As Max continued his lonely trek through the neighborhood, the weight of his rejections bore down on him. The sky had deepened into twilight, and the streetlights flickered on one by one, casting a dull glow across the pavement. The cold wind had turned sharp, and Max's paws ached from walking so long. His stomach growled, but he had no energy left to search for food. He just wanted to curl up somewhere warm and rest, to forget the pain of being unwanted. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story, something he hadn't yet discovered. Max walked aimlessly, his head low, until he reached a small park at the end of the street. It was quiet, save for the sound of rustling trees and the distant hum of city life. Max hesitated for a moment, standing by the park's entrance. He was exhausted, his heart heavy with disappointment, but something inside him told him to keep going, to not give up just yet. With one last sigh, he pushed through the gate and wandered into the park. The park, usually filled with children playing and people walking their dogs, was now empty and still. The swings creaked slightly in the breeze, and the only sound that filled the air was the soft patter of Max's paws on the ground. He didn't know why, but something about this place made him feel a little safer, a little less alone. Max padded slowly toward a small bench under a street lamp and lay down beside it. His eyes grew heavy, and soon he drifted off into a light sleep, his body curled up tightly for warmth. But just as he was starting to rest, a soft noise caught his attention. Max's ears perked up, and he lifted his head. The sound was faint at first, a rustling noise, like someone approaching. Slowly, he stood up, his body tense. The hairs on his neck stood on end as he glanced around the park, trying to find the source of the sound. Through the dim light, Max saw a figure approaching from the far side of the park. A man. The man was walking slowly, his hands tucked into his jacket pockets. As he got closer, Max took a few cautious steps toward him. The man stopped a few feet away, looking down at Max with a mixture of curiosity and concern. There was a softness in his eyes, and for the first time that day, Max felt a flicker of hope. He took a step closer to the man, his tail wagging slightly, but not with the full enthusiasm he once had. The man knelt down slowly, extending a hand toward Max. Max hesitated for a moment, then took a cautious step forward, sniffing the man's hand. The man smiled gently and patted Max's head. "Hey there, buddy," the man said softly. "You look like you've been through a lot." Max felt the warmth of the man's hand, and for the first time all day, he felt safe. The man seemed different. He wasn't rushing to send Max away. Instead, there was a calmness, an understanding in his eyes that Max hadn't seen in anyone else. As the man reached down to pet Max's neck, his fingers brushed against something strange. A metal tag attached to Max's collar caught his attention. The tag gleamed in the dim light, almost as if it were calling out to the man. Curious, the man gently lifted the collar and turned it over. The tag was old, slightly scratched and worn, but still legible. The man squinted at it, reading the engraved message. "If found, please read the note attached. This dog's life is more than you think." The message left the man puzzled. He looked back at Max, who was still standing there, looking up at him with trusting eyes. There was something about the dog, something beyond the tired, weary exterior, that seemed to draw the man in even more. It was as if Max was waiting for the man to figure out something that no one else had bothered to look for. Without hesitation, the man took a deep breath and looked around for a place to sit. He motioned for Max to follow and led him to a nearby bench, where they both sat under the light of the street lamp. The man carefully examined the tag again, his mind racing. The words on the tag made it clear that there was more to this dog's story than anyone had realized. The man's heart raced as he wondered what the note might contain, and why no one else had bothered to investigate. As he reached into his pocket for his phone to search for any leads, the man noticed Max's collar more closely. It wasn't just a simple collar. It was unique, almost like it had a purpose beyond just holding a tag. The mystery of Max's past seemed to deepen with every passing second, and the man's curiosity only grew stronger. He was determined to learn what secrets Max's collar held. Little did he know, this moment would change both of their lives forever. Max sat beside the man, sensing that something important was about to happen. For the first time all day, Max allowed himself to hope. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. Maybe this man would uncover the mystery of his past, and just maybe give him the second chance he had been waiting for. The man sat on the bench, his hands trembling slightly as he carefully examined the tag on Max's collar. The words etched onto the small metal disc seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 untold stories. The message was simple, but it carried an undeniable sense of urgency and mystery. If found, please read the note attached. This dog's life is more than you think. Max sat quietly beside him, his eyes fixed on the man, as if urging him to understand the significance of the words. The evening air was still, and the park around them seemed to fade into the background as the man's thoughts raced. Who had put this tag on Max's collar? And why? It seemed almost as if the dog's fate was tied to this single, small detail, one that no one had bothered to uncover until now. Determined to get to the bottom of it, the man gently slid the tag off Max's collar and turned it over. On the back, there was a small folded piece of paper. His heart skipped a beat as he unfolded the note, unsure of what he would find. The handwriting was elegant, yet rushed, as if written in a moment of desperation. The note read, "Max is no ordinary dog. He has been trained to serve, protect, and help in ways most cannot understand. He has a special bond with his previous owner, a bond that goes beyond the typical relationship between a dog and their human. Max is not just a pet. He is part of something much greater. His previous family was forced to leave him behind due to unforeseen circumstances. But Max has something important to do, something he can't complete until he finds someone who understands him. Please do not ignore this dog. He is more than a stray. He has a mission, a purpose. If you are the one who reads this, you are the key to unlocking Max's future." The words on the note hit the man like a tidal wave. The weight of the message began to settle in, and his heart raced with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Max, the dog he had just met, was more than just a lost pet. He was part of something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. He had a mission, a purpose that had been left unfinished when his previous family was forced to abandon him. Max's calm gaze never wavered as the man read the note aloud, as if understanding the importance of the moment. The man's fingers traced the words on the paper, trying to comprehend what they meant. He had no idea what kind of mission Max could possibly have, but there was no denying the sincerity in the note. The dog's past, hidden beneath layers of pain and abandonment, was now unfolding in front of him. The man looked at Max, his thoughts swirling. The dog had been rejected by so many people, turned away without a second thought, and yet now the truth was staring him in the face. Max wasn't just any dog. He had been trained for something greater. His previous family had left him behind, but they had left this message for a reason the man was beginning to understand. He couldn't help but wonder why no one else had ever bothered to read the tag, to understand the deeper meaning behind the dog's behavior. It was clear now that Max wasn't just a stray. He was a dog with a purpose. And the man, he was the one who had been chosen to uncover the truth. The realization hit him hard. The responsibility of it all seemed overwhelming. Was he the right person to help Max fulfill whatever mission he had? Could he truly help the dog find his way? The man's heart swelled with empathy for Max, who had been through so much, and yet still carried the weight of this mysterious purpose. Max, sensing the man's inner turmoil, nudged his hand with his nose. It was as if he was telling the man that he didn't have to have all the answers, that he didn't need to understand everything right away. The bond between them was growing stronger, and with that bond came trust. Trust that the man would help Max find his way, just as the note had said. The man stood up, holding the note in one hand and Max's collar in the other. He gazed out into the darkening park, a sense of determination filling him. Max had a mission, a purpose, and now so did he. He wasn't sure what lay ahead, but one thing was clear. He couldn't turn back. Max's future, and perhaps his own, depended on what they did next. With a final look at the dog beside him, the man smiled softly. "Don't worry, Max," he whispered. "We'll figure this out together." Max wagged his tail, his eyes full of gratitude and trust. The truth had been revealed, and the journey was just beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The man knew that, with Max by his side, they were destined for something extraordinary. The night was quiet, with only the distant hum of the city to break the stillness. Max sat next to the man on the bench, the note still clutched in his hand. For the first time in what felt like forever, the man felt a sense of purpose. He had no idea what kind of mission Max had been trained for or what the future held, but one thing was certain: he couldn't turn away now. Max had been through so much already, and now it was his turn to help him find what he had been searching for all this time. The man stood up and gently attached the collar back onto Max's neck. The weight of the collar felt different now, heavier with the knowledge that it represented more than just a piece of metal. It represented a purpose. Max looked up at him, his tail wagging gently, as if he knew that everything was about to change. "Let's go," the man said softly, his voice filled with determination. "We're in this together." Max stood up and followed the man, his steps light but purposeful. They walked through the park, past the swings that creaked in the breeze, and out onto the quiet street. The world around them seemed to pause, as if recognizing the significance of the moment. For Max, the endless rejections, the loneliness, the confusion, it was all fading away, replaced by the possibility of something new. The man knew that Max wasn't just any dog. He was a dog with a mission, a dog who had been waiting for someone who could understand him. And now he had found that someone. The bond between them had formed in such a short time, but it felt as though they had known each other for a lifetime. It was as if fate had brought them together at the exact moment they needed each other the most. As they walked through the neighborhood, the man couldn't help but notice how different everything seemed. The houses, the streets, the trees, it all looked the same, yet it felt as if they were stepping into a new world, one that was waiting for them to discover its secrets. Max walked beside him with newfound energy, his eyes alert and curious. The uncertainty that had once clouded his every step had disappeared, replaced by a quiet confidence. Max wasn't just a stray anymore. He was a part of something greater. And so was the man. They were no longer two lost souls wandering through life. They were a team, united by something bigger than themselves. Together, they had a purpose, a mission that would guide them forward. When they reached the man's apartment, Max hesitated for a moment, looking up at the door. The man opened it and stepped inside, holding the door open for Max to follow. Max stepped into the small, cozy apartment, his nose twitching as he took in the unfamiliar scents. The man set down his bag and turned to Max, who was standing in the doorway, unsure of what to do next. "It's okay," the man said gently, kneeling down beside him. "This is your home now." Max's ears perked up, and he took a few cautious steps inside. The warmth of the room was a welcome change from the cold streets he had wandered for so long. He looked around, his eyes wide with wonder. It was small, but it felt safe. The man smiled softly, watching Max explore the room with a mix of curiosity and excitement. As the night wore on, the man set up a cozy bed for Max in the corner of the room, and they settled in for the night. The man sat on the couch, reading through the note again, thinking about the mission that had been passed on to him. He didn't know what it would entail, but he was ready. Whatever came next, he would face it with Max by his side. Max curled up on his bed, his eyes fluttering shut as he drifted off to sleep. For the first time in what felt like forever, he was at peace. The fear, the uncertainty, the loneliness, it was all behind him now. He was no longer a stray dog with no future. He was part of something bigger, something that was just beginning to unfold. The man smiled as he watched Max sleep, his heart full of gratitude. He didn't know what the future held for them, but he knew one thing for sure. It would be a journey worth taking. Together, They would face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they had found each other at the perfect moment in time. As the man turned off the light and settled into his own bed, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of fulfillment. He had given Max a home, but in return, Max had given him something even more valuable: purpose, companionship, and a bond that could never be broken. Their journey had only just begun, and the man was ready to see where it would lead. And so, as the first rays of dawn peeked through the window, they both slept soundly, knowing that a new chapter of their lives had begun. It was a new beginning, one that would change everything for both of them.